Today's world is full of opinions on how people should act, think, talk, behave, and live in general. It feels like the media today is full of pain, death, depression, and pessimism. This is tearing down our mental health and leaving us bare. The Dalai Lama, in his book, Ethics of the New Millennium, offers a new perspective on how we should look at the world, our lives, and those around us in this new, changing time. Hi, welcome to Ethics with Ari. Today, I'm going to talk about my future career in international affairs and how it relates to the Dalai Lama's ethics in this new, fast-paced, changing world. So to start this episode, I'm going to just lay out the Dalai Lama's main beliefs, which not only align with my personal values, but also help explain why I decided to major in international affairs. So to start, his call for a spiritual revolution, which is like to him a shift away from materialism and towards more compassion, connection, and this feeling of responsibility for other people. This feels more relevant than ever in our increasingly individualistic and divided world. And so these ideas and my belief in their potential helped shape my desire to study global systems and contribute to building a more empathetic and interconnected future. So without further ado, let's go. Firstly, as I briefly mentioned, the Dalai Lama proposes that we should have a spiritual revolution. Now, this spiritual revolution isn't really innately religious, as one might think when they first hear spiritual revolution, but it's more just having this compassion and love towards other people. The Dalai Lama gives a more clear definition on what spiritual practice from spiritual revolution is on page 23 of his book, Ethics of the New Millennium, when he claims it is, quote, acting out of concern for others' well-being, quote. And then to continue this, he also talks about how it's really requires a willingness to learn and change yourself, and then in the future be more easily changed by what you learn. So it's not just like changing yourself once and that's you. It's having a willingness to learn from other people and to care for other people enough to change and grow and learn. So really in practice, this means listening to others and being open to new perspectives and changing ourselves around new information when new information teaches you something else. And he also writes that the spiritual revolution is an orientation away from self towards a larger community. So he thinks that it's different from religion because religion itself, or at least this is also what I think, religion itself usually faces a deity. This is what you yourself need to change about yourself. A spiritual revolution is more just turning away from yourself in general. And then additionally, a spiritual revolution is really cultivating kindness and compassion and empathy. And it's crucial regardless of whether or not someone follows religion. And I find this incredibly powerful as someone who's not extremely religious, and it directly informs how I want to engage with the world through international affairs and in my future. Because understanding global issues like displacement, inequality, and climate change require compassion, not just some policy expertise. And so by having this spiritual revolution where you orientate yourself towards the greater world around you, and I'll talk more about this in the next few minutes, you really can better understand yourself and what you want to do as a person. And so this has taught me, okay, yeah, I do want to do international affairs. I do want to learn the compassionate aspect of all these global issues. A recent study in Psychology Today indicates that people worldwide are increasingly embracing individualism. This means that individuals are becoming more self-reliant and independent as opposed to being a part of the collective. A collectivist culture emphasizes community and family, promoting teamwork over solo efforts. When you consider this alongside findings that highlight a growing trend in narcissism, it paints a picture of a society that is becoming more self-absorbed and less connected to others, in addition to a society that is becoming increasingly more depressed. And truly, that is what we are today. We are all of those things. And this hyper-individualism is the opposite of what the Dalai Lama calls for. I mean, he emphasizes happiness through connection, not isolation, and through getting to know other people and this deep sense of shared responsibility, not being individualistic. I think that Dalai Lama makes an excellent point on why we should orientate ourselves towards other people rather than just ourselves. I mean, especially with the rise in narcissism that has come along with how obsessed everyone is with their phones and online in general, I think it's more important than ever to turn people towards the community as a whole instead of just the individual and becoming more individualistic. I mean, I've noticed this in my own life that when I'm like focused inwards just on myself, I'm just like sitting in all my problems and not really talking to anyone about it, then I feel more disconnected and more dissatisfied and very unhappy. But when I invest in a relationship in a community, when I orientate my energy towards others, I mean, I feel a lot better in general, more grounded. And I know a part of that is probably because, I mean, I am definitely an optimist and I'm definitely a people person, so people give me energy. But I think it's also very important that we realize the meaningful impact that other people have on us in general. And this goes not only just on the personal level, but also on the global level. So if we tie this back to international affairs, you really have to start with empathy and trying to connect with people and understand people. And that's one of the reasons why I chose to study international affairs. I want to build a career rooted in understanding different cultures and people and the world in general. I want to orientate myself, once again using that word, to the greater world as a whole instead of just what we know here in our small little circle of friends. And I think that not only will I hopefully help people in my future career by doing this, but also I think I'm going to grow as a person and learn a lot more about the world by taking the Dalai Lama's words and really putting that into action. Supporting his point that we should all become more interconnected, in Chapter 1 of Ethics of the New Millennium, the Dalai Lama touches on modern living and how it demands we need less and less from other people. He claims that because of advancements in technology, we rely on each other less and less for support, which in turn encourages us to think because others are not important for our own happiness, someone else's happiness is not important to us. And then because of that, we're less likely to act to make someone else happy. He actually uses farming as an example, which I loved as someone who comes from a family of farmers. He showed that, or used, that people before needed to call on their neighbors or family for help during a harvest. And now this is just done by phoning contractors, never even talking to each other face to face, and with machines. So technology. No longer is there like a really strong bond that you have to have for these farmers to call upon help to harvest all their crops. That sense of mutual dependency and the relationship that comes from it is gone. And I can see this a bit in my own family where all of the grandkids now in my family are going to college. They're not going to help out on the farm. Like, very rarely do we as a family go there and actually help them do farm work. I love it. So I do sometimes. I'll be there in a couple weeks. But it's turned into a lot more individualistic and no longer the whole family event. When my mom was younger, her and her brothers all were, putting all the hay bales onto the tractor, hard at work every day, getting stuff done together. And now it's very much just my grandparents and machines and contractors. And they're just a small family farm. So you can really see this on all levels. And it's kind of sad to see this mutual dependency and this relationship slowly disappearing. And that's what the Dalai Lama sees as an issue. He thinks people do need to become more interconnected, and technology can sometimes have a negative effect on that. The same trend can be applied globally when people are unwilling to fight for change that doesn't directly benefit them. So whether or not it's, for example, like climate justice or helping refugees or giving humanitarian aid, people have to be taught to care about others beyond their immediate circles. And that's what the Dalai Lama's spiritual revolution demands we fix. It demands that we shift from this me thinking to a we thinking, where yes, we must learn ourselves as a person, but we must also be more interconnected and care more for others. And by caring more for others, that's how we will be happier. The Dalai Lama gave a powerful speech in front of the students at Stanford, speaking of the importance of understanding one another between countries for global peace, which I will now play.
Changing mind only through compassion or education, not by force. We have to find ways and means to solve that through dialogue. In order to carry meaningful dialogue, first, it is necessary respect the other who have different view. Consider part of we, part of humanity. My future also depends on them. So respect and listen their interest and tell them our interest and try to find mutually agreeable solution. That's the only way.
This powerful message does an incredible job of really illustrating his message through reaching peace internally, and then also through reaching a new understanding with other people and really trying to do the best for other people. And it's also so powerful on the global scale. If other countries and different cultures gave each other respect, which he actually continues on if you listen to the rest of the speech, then we would have much less war and much less issues, because both sides of the party would be able to understand fully what the other people mean and are saying. And so respect and just caring for other people and being willing to let what other people say change you is so important, and such an important part of internally developing and becoming the best person that you can be. Another argument in the Dalai Lama's book is that we need to better understand ourselves on the inside, as I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but I'll go more in depth now. And by this he means emotionally. He says that genuine happiness comes from inner peace, not something like material goods. And we get this inner peace through compassion and ethical living. Compassion as in compassion to other people, as I just talked about with the spiritual revolution. And he also claims that knowledge alone cannot bring happiness, as we talked about with the technology not bringing necessarily more happiness, in the same way as inner development and gaining that inner peace can. So though we gain a lot of knowledge as society advances, the Dalai Lama claims this can cause us to lose touch with the wider reality of human experience, and in particular on our dependence on others. So this might not actually be beneficial. This advancement, all these new tools to farm with, that might not actually be beneficial for our emotional health, though it may be actually more productive. In order to find this inner peace and develop ourselves internally, the Dalai Lama encourages us to feel things like love, patience, forgiveness, humility, and generosity. These emotions guide people to act kindly. When they feel them, they aren't going to be mean. And so when you focus on building these feelings inside of yourself, it just becomes a lot easier to help other people instead of developing dangerous emotions like anger, hatred, greed, jealousy, and fear. And he says that these bad emotions can cloud our judgments and lead us to hurt others or ourselves, and that we're still likely going to feel them if we can work on managing them and instead feeling the good feelings I spoke of earlier. That is going to be the most beneficial. So recognize these bad feelings and gently work on not letting them to drive our actions, and instead having our actions based off of love, patience, forgiveness, humility, and generosity. And I think this will end with a happier world overall. If every single person strived to feel these good feelings and focused on those instead of the bad, then I doubt we'd have nearly as much war. And I hope that in international affairs I can do something to change that. But that's another reason why I'm in international affairs. I really just want to cultivate these good feelings in as many people as I can and try and bring as much peace as I can to what's around me. Additionally, this has made me reflect on how we seek fulfillment in all the wrong places. So through social status or romantic relationships, or this idea that we must constantly achieve and be better and better and better and better. I mean, I've seen myself and a lot of other people, of course, fall into toxic dynamics because we haven't found inner peace. And so the Dalai Lama's message is pretty clear in this case. It's build yourself up with the love, peace, humility, generosity, what I mentioned earlier, and then bring that to others. So I believe in international affairs, I'm going to be able to do this because as I grow and I learn more about myself and others, I can then share that inner peace with others through learning about myself spiritually, as I did in fact mention earlier. Another major theme in the Dalai Lama's writing is materialism and its failure to deliver real happiness and real inner peace. He uses the observation of countries that are less developed having actually an average of people being more happy and more fulfilled than in those living in very developed countries who are usually less happy and less fulfilled. And the Dalai Lama, though, doesn't find issue with materialism itself, but rather, as he says on page 51, quote, the underlying assumption that full satisfaction can arise from gratifying the senses alone, quote. So by gratifying the senses, this is giving into materialism and what you can touch and buy with your money. And he says that this is wrong. You shouldn't think that you can fully just find happiness with materialism itself. The Dalai Lama says humans can experience deep happiness through the senses, yes, but that these emotions through the senses gained through material goods will not give us the happiness we are actually looking for. So material goods will give us those temporary joys, that temporary satisfaction, but real happiness isn't found in money, fame, or possessions. It's found in the calm and peaceful mind and state that you can get from inner peace and from developing these positive inner qualities and this love and kindness, no matter what's happening in the world around you. The Dalai Lama actually quotes on page 52 an ancient Indian writer who remarked, quote, indulging our senses and drinking salt water are alike. The more we partake, the more our desire and thirst grow, quote. That's actually one of the core reasons why I made the decision to move to DC. And I mean, I'm risking going into debt at GW for it. Even the degree that I'm pursuing isn't traditionally valued in my hometown. It's not seen as this material good that's awesome. And congratulations, you got a degree in international affairs. But I'm even risking going into debt to be here for it. And it's because I'm choosing a less practical, less high-paying degree because I know that it's going to bring me fulfillment and make my life rich in meaning and not just money. I mean, that's also why I decided to go on the Global Bachelor's program, so I can immerse myself in all these different countries and cultures and learn about them, because I know that that's what's going to actually create real lasting change in myself and who I am and help me find that inner peace. It's not based on material goods and being rich and getting a degree that's going to make you rich. It's based off of doing something that you love and that's going to bring real joy to your life. Ultimately, the Dalai Lama's teachings, they aren't just idealistic, they're deeply practical. And a more compassionate, interconnected world starts with each of us choosing to listen, to care, and to act with empathy. And that's what I hope to do, and that's why I study international affairs. We must strive to understand each other better through understanding ourselves and taking a step back from materialism. And in this way, the world will be more peaceful and less divisive. Thank you for listening to Ethics with Ari, and until next time, goodbye.